Going into the Iron Claw, I did not expect much. I had no prior knowledge of the movie except that it was based on the real Von Erich family. No background on that family and its wrestling history, and virtually zero interest in wrestling. But the Iron Claw isn't a wrestling movie, at least not primarily. In fact, in the words of its director, Sean Durkin, it's first and foremost a family drama about a great American wrestling dynasty. It's a great American Greek tragedy. Given that I knew this was an A24 movie, I knew it was going to be at least interesting. I knew it couldn't be a traditional sports biopic. But I didn't expect it to be such a deeply moving human story about brotherhood, masculinity, generational trauma, obsession, and so much more. The Iron Claw is a story about the Von Erich brothers, four siblings chiseled and molded to fit into the world of pro wrestling by their father, former pro wrestler turned wrestling promoter Fritz Von Erich, who teaches his children that success and power make you invincible, drilling into them his obsessions and ambitions and driving them to madness by ruling over them with an iron claw. Fritz and his wife, through her inaction, raise their children with an upbringing that values extreme, warped stoicism and stereotypical masculinity beyond anything else, emotionally stunting them and leaving them unprepared to brave the dangers of the real world and the extreme highs and lows of being in the public spotlight. It mainly focuses on Kevin Von Erich, the eldest of these four brothers, as he struggles to come to terms with the tragedies that keep befalling his family, numerous tragedies that he's begun to see as a family curse, the Von Erich curse. Kevin and his siblings rise to stardom in the wrestling world, but are beset by issue after issue that they are often emotionally unprepared to deal with, leading to more and more tragedies. I won't be going into spoilers here because I really want you guys to watch this movie and to preferably go into it unprepared and with no prior context about the Von Erichs, because this movie was just really good to see completely raw. The movie is a really interesting exploration of toxic family dynamics as it focuses on portraying the relationship between Fritz and his four children. It's the well-known tale of a strict, demanding father with very high expectations who wants to achieve vicariously through his children what he could not achieve himself. And it's done very well here by showing us the long-term results of having such a father and how that shaped the Von Erich brothers' entire life trajectories. It highlights the dangers of that stereotypical stoic masculinity that was so common for that time and place, as this father refuses to allow his children to feel or process emotion, but instead raises them on the notion of suck it up, be a man, leaving them with no avenue for healthy communication with him or their mother, making them rely on one another for emotional support. This subsequently plays into the themes of brotherhood that this movie so heavily fixates upon, with the close-knit bonds that these siblings have with one another. It's a very real look into a very realistic sibling relationship, particularly because it is based on the real Von Erichs. The real-life Kevin Von Erich, who was in communication with Sean Durkin throughout production, had expressed that he hoped this movie would emphasize the bond between the brothers and their love for each other. This brotherhood was a very important aspect of the story, and I think it was very well represented in the movie. Kevin, Carrie, David, and Mike as characters feel like real siblings, and this is in large part thanks to the fantastic performances of Zac Efron, Jeremy Allen White, Harris Dickinson, and Stanley Simons. The four of them speak and behave in a similar way, with just general mannerisms and a way that they carry themselves that just seems fundamentally connected, and this makes their sibling bond much more believable on screen. Additionally, their chemistry is off the charts. Even in interviews outside the movie, you can sense the friendship and you can sense this feeling of familiarity between them. The period-appropriate wigs and costumes also aid in solidifying the visual aspect of this brotherly bond, in addition to allowing the movie to give us a seemingly accurate portrayal of Texas in the 80s and 90s. The movie's presentation is great overall, with interesting sets and locations that faithfully and beautifully depict the fighting arenas and rings, and with cinematography that can be both subtle and emotional in more intimate family moments the Von Erich brothers share outside the ring, and yet extremely personal, violent, and dynamic inside the ring and in instances where we see wrestling. Zac Efron's acting as the lead seals it all together, playing Kevin as a gentle giant who, despite being incredibly ripped and powerful, possesses an incredibly sensitive, caring heart, a facet of the character that Efron really sinks into, displaying the nuances in both bouts of deep emotion and periods of passive stoicism. The Iron Claw is just a really touching ride all the way through, and I think that the story it tells is an incredibly relatable one for people everywhere, and more particularly for males, with how the movie handles the subject of traditional masculinity and the emotional disconnect that comes with it. I really didn't care about the wrestling side of things, and yet wrestling and what it represents ties heavily into those themes of masculinity that the movie addresses, making it a perfect framework for the story. One of my only issues with the movie was that the dialogue felt too expository and intentional in some parts, particularly in the opening scenes and the ending, and was too literal in how it emphasized the message the movie sought to deliver. It's a beautiful message that I personally agree with and relate to, and one that was delivered quite effectively overall, but it did toe the line of coming off too heavy-handed in a few brief instances. However, it was a flaw I was quick to forgive when the movie's end credits started to play and I found myself wiping snot off my nose and tears off my cheeks. It's a real tearjerker, but so was the true story of the Von Erichs. In fact, it was even more tragic. Durkin had to literally cut down on the tragedy and omitted some major parts of the true story, because keeping them in would have simply made the movie too sad. In short, this movie hit me really hard, and I love it. So yeah, The Iron Claw was really good. Thank you so much for watching this video. Leave a like, subscribe, and if you haven't seen it yet, go watch the movie. Take care and see you soon. Goodbye.